Okay, in this part of the video I'm going to talk about the infrared sensors I got. These are just little infrared sensors I got off Amazon, and on my last layout I put them under the track, drilled a hole and used a 1/2-inch piece of plastic pipe to hold them in there and put a little plate on the bottom so they didn't fall out. This time I wanted to do it easier. So I got the idea of buying these little signal boxes, and I talked about this in my last video, and then I drilled holes in them like that. That's pretty ugly. What I would do is bend these sensors down like this. I'd adjust the distance I want them to detect. Use this little screw here, and then I put them inside here, and I used a piece of double-sided tape to line them up. Well, I ended up breaking, they come 6 in a pack. I think I broke half of them trying to get the holes drilled. Also, they're too wide to go in between some of my tracks. So I wrote to the guy that makes these, 3D prints these, and I showed you his name previously in a prior video as Jack Scale Models. The guy's name is Marvin. So I asked him if he had any signal boxes that weren't quite this wide, and he didn't, but he asked me what size I wanted. So I told him the size I wanted, and he said he could also put the holes in them for me. So here's what I got, and he did those for me. And now I just have to set the distance on the sensor, and I put them in there, and with another piece of small tape, double-sided tape, I can work them in there, and he's made those holes perfectly. I didn't get this one set up, but you can see it there. So now they fit between the tracks where I wanted them to go. And so anyway, I want to give a shout out to Marvin at Jack Scale Models. He does other kind of stuff. In fact, I ordered some Kaibos from him for my upcoming drama series. So on this infrared sensor, it has 3 outputs. The one on the right is where you get your power, and then I connect that into my power for my DCC bus line. The middle one is your ground wire, and the left one is the one that sends the signal over to you, the Arduino. So I use compression joiners and hook that into my DC bus line. So that's how I set those up. And what I found in testing is these set a little low when they're on the grass. They'd be fine on the ballast, but on the grass I had to cut a little piece of foam. Let me change this camera so you can see those. But you can see the little piece of foam I cut, painted it, kind of looks like a concrete pad. So now that sensor is right at the right height to see my cars going by. So in future videos I can use those sensor indicators to get my trains to stop exactly where I want them to stop. I can also detect if a train is on a certain piece of track, then I can have another train switch over to a track that's not occupied. So that's what I've been working on, and thanks for watching. Okay, this is my Arduino setup, and I got these off Amazon. They're actual Arduino boards. You can get some third-party boards cheaper, but I wanted to go ahead and get the Arduinos. So the underlying one here is a Mega, and this one on top is a motor shield. And the motor shield is what actually transmits the signals into your DCC track. So this is the power coming in from a separate wall wart kind of thing. And this is the power going out to the track, main track. This would be for a test track, which I haven't set up yet. This is the USB connector coming in from my computer. These are a 5 volt and a ground coming out of the Arduino, and then I connect those to my DCC bus line. I have a couple of little test plugs attached to those, so if I want to test a infrared sensor, I don't have to plug it into the main bus line. And over here on this side is where the signals come in from the sensors, and those plug in. I'm using kind of an extension gizmo here where I can pull the whole thing out instead of having to pull out individual wires. So that's where it comes in. These are the pin numbers that you match over on JMRI. So that's a setup for the Arduino, and these are actually very easy to set up now. If you go to DCC-EX, they have an automated install program, and you just click a selection, and it actually does all the work for you and sets up the automation. You have to make some selections as part of the install, but you don't have to know anything about how it's loading the software or anything complicated. It's almost plug and play nowadays. Okay, in this part of the video, I'm going to show you how to set up JMRI sensors using Panel Pro. So I'm starting my Panel Pro application here on my Windows system. I have a test track and a production track, I guess you'd call it. That's my track in the garage. Takes it a few seconds here to load that up. I'm connected to my Arduino through a USB port. Right now it's loading tables I've asked it to load on startup. So to start, the first thing you have to do is go over here. I'm running DCC-EX, so I need to set up the sensor. So I hit DCC++, and then I'll open the base station. And what you have to do, and I've already set up several of these sensors, but you have to set up your sensors inside this DCC++ configuration page. So you just put the ID number, which will correspond to your pin number over on your Arduino. Like here's the pin number, here's the ID number. I always use them the same. So for example, this is pin 30 on my Arduino, 31, 33. And then I put the same numbers over here on the left side. So you put those in and you save them, and it'll ask you if you want to update your sensor table. So it'll add those into your JMRI sensor tables. This is my sensor table over here, and it adds this DS in front of it, and then you see the number. And this column shows you the status of the sensor, if it's known or unknown. They start out as unknown, and then as you activate them and deactivate them, they'll change, say active or inactive. One thing I found out, which is useful, is as my cars would pass in front of the sensor, where there was a gap in the cars, it would change from active to inactive, flash back and forth. And I want to be able to experiment with setting a segment on my track as occupied using sensors. So I needed to get rid of that flash between the cars. So what I did was I put in 1,000 millisecond delay in when it goes to inactive. So that keeps it active as long as the whole train is going in front of that sensor. So that's how you can do that. And in a future video, I'll talk about how to set up the system to track the sensors on the track itself. So that's the way you set up the sensors on JMRI.